Okay, so we're going to watch Russia's chief propagandist do his normal thing. And sometimes when I watch it, it's depressing, and sometimes it makes me angry. But he got so cartoonish today that it just kind of made me happy to to watch him talk, because you realize at a certain point that his threats can't possibly be real, and you realize that he's just kind of speaking almost into a vacuum. Like it's yeah, at any rate, you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to play this, and you're going to hear me read his words as well as some commentary about that. So let's watch this. And thank you to the Russian Media Monitor for putting this together. Good morning, dears. Although, listen, what's so good about it? Please tell me, I'm trying to understand. What's so good about this morning? Now, this is the morning after the massive drone strike that hit Russia in multiple places, including Peskov near the near the Estonian border. And he's pretty livid about this. Realistically speaking, I want to once again address our governors, among others. Stop pretending to be bloggers. What are you doing? Why are you posting photos of what landed, where, and what's on fire? What else has to happen so that things become clear in your heads? It was a powerful attack. Why was it possible? Where did it originate? There are losses of our military transport aviation. This is very bad. Why, first of all, this action was being prepared? Was there information about this? Was it sufficient in order to prevent it? No. There was reconnaissance of the targets, thanks to NATO's aerospace intelligence, among other things. We are still lackadaisical toward them. Now, he's talking about being lackadaisical toward NATO, wearing a CCCP, that's the old Soviet Union, like that's the initials of the old Soviet Union. Like, I'm old enough to remember the old Soviet Union and like the hockey team and whatever else. So we wear CCCP on there. That's USSR translated to us. And he's talking about NATO as if he is still in the old Soviet Union. They are carrying out military tasks directed against us. They should be destroyed. We scrambled our aircraft and chased them away. Aren't they directing the enemy's drones? Yes, they are. Oi, it will lead to a direct confrontation with NATO. You know, I don't think that it's going to be. I showed this in a previous video earlier today. This was is Konstantin Sonin. I don't know who this is, but this was a great insight. It has never been about NATO. The yesterday night attack on Peskov Airport, the most westbound Russian military hub, demonstrated that it was left totally defenseless. A hypothetical NATO attack from this most natural direction would have been devastating. So he's talking smack about NATO as if there's a thing there, and as if, you know, we could just go destroy it. There's no thought in the Russian mind to go attack these kind of places. Like, they might be on alert over in the Baltic states, and I understand. I mean, if I had lived under Soviet domination for decades, I'd be a little concerned about that as well. But there's no real defense line over there. They don't have the capability to put a defense line over there. And so he's talking about he's going to go roll over NATO. That's not going to happen. This is all cartoonish. It's smoke and mirrors. Or it will lead to a direct confrontation with NATO. How are we confronting them now? Indirectly? If we're going to wage war, we should wage war. Yesterday, everyone went on. Oi, how could Gurdulov say Solovyov show that we should use tactical nuclear weapons? Enough whining, sniveling, wimps are everywhere. There is hysterical article on Moscow's Komolets. How could you? What does it lead to? Every gopher is an agriculturalist. Want to argue with Sergei Kagnerov? Get ready and head for the front lines. Show how you can do it without nuclear weapons. Okay, so he's saber rattling, and he doesn't, like, his saber rattling is to the point of absurdity. He's become unhinged. He's just, we're going to go do this. But with what? Like, you haven't thought this through, and you don't have any defense lines over on the NATO side. So what are you ranting about? Enough talking and writing articles about negotiations. We should freeze the conflict. Economy is suffering. Every blank that is writing this nonsense should be dragged out so that people know these faces. What? Don't you understand? Slaves, worthless slaves of the dollar system. Pathetic mutts. A massive drone attack against Russian objects. Peskov, what is it? Let's break it down into a number of obvious questions. Peskov is next to the border with NATO. Where was it launched from? Ukraine? Yeah, right. Well, it looks like it could have been, and that your air defenses are really that bad. And, you know, cardboard drones don't hurt, although I don't think cardboard went to Peskov, cardboard went elsewhere. But nonetheless, so your air defenses are that bad, or it could be people inside. But that it's NATO, come on. Where was it launched from? Ukraine? Yeah, right. From the territory of the Baltics? Then destroy the Baltics. Erase them off the face of the earth. I mean, he's really just getting cartoonish now. I mean, this is just silly. If the strike was launched from a NATO country, this is NATO's declaration of war against Russia. Okay, let me pause there. If NATO really did strike you, you would know it. And I don't think that there's any question in anyone's mind in the West that if NATO was actually, and they're not, but if they were, it wouldn't have been what happened yesterday. This means that in response, nuclear weapons should be immediately used, among other things. We've said this many times. Many times. We're catching spies functioning in our country. Alexander writes there is no martial law in Peskov. I could care less whether there's martial law or not. If you, idiot, can't see that a war is underway, then I could spit on how it's designated. When things are exploding and you're being bombed, it's irrelevant whether it says there's martial law. Defend your motherland. How are we supposed to understand all of this? How? That's it. There should be no more conversations about red lines and whether they will be crossed. Our diplomats should finally stop babbling. Sergei Viktorovich Lavrov states, and Maria Zakharova is the voice of the foreign ministry. Can the majority of the rest of us just shut up or speak only based on a directive? Did you hear what he just said? So he doesn't want multiple voices to have multiple voices. He wants to only speak with one unified voice from a directive from above. Like, okay, I mean, wearing that CCCP shirt, I mean, this is what he really wants. That's just amazing. Or speak only of the directive of the affairs minister stating a clear position prescribed by the government and not speak their personal views. Like, he's really saying this so that there are no illusions like, oh, how could it be? Sergei writes, what is this hysteria? We can't win waging a so-called operation. You should call a war a war. We won't win as long as cowards are in power. Sergei, where are you writing this from, dirtbag? Why are you appropriating the Wagnerites? Okay, speaking like the Wagnerites is what he's saying. Dirtbag, how are you related to them? Go fight next to our guys, instead of writing all sorts of trash here and covering up with the Wagnerites. The Wagnerites would never have written this. It's time to wage war for real. Wow, that's quite a statement coming from someone who is supposed to be echoing what Putin wants to say, and you could go to jail for calling the special military operation a war. But again, he's becoming unhinged. Harshly delivering strikes instead of, oh no, it's not like us. I'm not that way. I'm just waiting for a tramway. Destroy to hell all government and administration buildings in Kyiv. Okay, so if you could have destroyed all these buildings in Kyiv, you would have, but you couldn't. You weren't able to. These are symbols. Stop striking objects no one knows without any confirmation. We destroyed their energy infrastructure last winter. How did that go? They have no power. They can't see well to launch their drones. Stop retaliating by destroying something someplace. I understand everything. We are soft and intelligent. Let's set it aside. It's time to understand this. We are at war with evil. Well, you're kind of right, but you're on the evil side of the war with evil, so yeah. Okay, so let it be like in the Bible. Oh dear. They will be put to death, their blood is upon them, destroyed like Sodom and Gomorrah, with fire and brimstone from the skies. Except God did that, not evil human beings attacking their innocent neighbors doing that. So kind of had it not quite right. What is happening? If we can't handle drones, how will we deal with F-16s? Now that is a absolutely brilliant question, and I think that's a great question for him to be asking. And I wish the higher echelons in Russia would be asking that same question, because the drones have proved that their air defense is really not that strong or not that significant. A number of articles have appeared by all of these people from the 90s explaining why we should surrender to the West. This is completely pointless. Economy of this size can't oppose the mighty West. We are on the fringes of the global economy. Why are we sticking our snout where it doesn't belong? And all of this is being published. All of it is being discussed. They're like moving their fingers. A war is underway. I don't understand why. These nations have embassies here. Throw them all the heck out of here. The British, the Americans, the French. Get out of here, beasts. All you do here is spy against our country. Oh no, you don't understand. Then they'll throw ours out as well. Okay, now he's talking about all you do is spy against our country while ironically wearing a CCCP shirt from the Soviet days when all that the Soviet did when they came to America was spy on our country. We should have recalled them long ago. But how? What about our consular services? For whom should we provide our consular services? For Londongrad? After the drone strike on the Kremlin, we didn't even wipe the center of Kyiv off the face of the earth. Well, that's because you couldn't. You didn't have the ability to, and you tried. Does it mean that they're permitted to do anything? Or is there a limit to our patience? Telegram channel Solovyov. Now, let me talk about that. Let's address this. So, is there a limit to their patience? This is the way that Scott Ritter will project and discuss this. It's like, look, the Russians have been very, very calm. They've not done anything that they hadn't had to do. I mean, you're going to test them, and they're going to, just come and wipe you off. You don't want that to happen. I don't think that's what it is. I think they have tried and they have failed, and that's really where we are. Okay, that's the end of his rant, and his rant was fascinating in a couple of respects. It's getting comical now, like. His threats aren't really threats. They're more like, yeah, right. Like a 6-year-old saying that he can take you in a fair fight. It's that kind of thing. It's not, it's unbelievable. And then there's so many pauses between. Now, you're not going to see this because I'm going to take out the pauses because it would be almost painful to watch him have long pauses like this. So right now I'm at about 18 minutes into this, and it'll be, we'll lose about 5 minutes worth of this video just because of the pauses, because he's just sitting there almost depressed as he's thinking through this and ranting. All right, so that's Solovyov. His rants have become more erratic over time, if that's possible, but he's really just unhinged here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening and watching and liking and sharing and subscribing and the coffees, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.